discuss we had on the Wiki app. And another one is from Carlin, which is it true that if you have sensitive skin, you should find a product with no fragrance?
Oh.
What if we like fragrance though? Just like we want to smell really nice.
Yeah, so I think that's something that people with sensitive skin more so are like, I don't know, confused with, right? So fragrance actually has gotten a bad rep, right, over the years. Like we almost equate like gold standard, high quality products as fragrance free, right? And I mean, that does have a basis, because when we think of the things that are likely to produce an irritation or a sensitivity, fragrance does fall on the top of the list, right? But the thing is, the funny thing is, I mean, although it's common, like common is actually relative. So if you look at like the literature, only around 1% of the population would actually have a sensitivity to fragrance, right? The problem, yeah, so the rest of the 99% of the population wouldn't. But the thing is, people with sensitive skin are more likely to be in that 1%, right? So, yeah. So majority of the time, if you have sensitive skin, we usually just advise to avoid fragrance, right? Because you would want to lessen your chances of developing a sensitivity to it, right? So it's more of like erring on the side of caution. Just being cautious. I don't want to develop a sensitivity. But for instance, if you do have sensitive skin, because I mean, there are just some things that you really do want, that fragrant, like experiential thing with the scent, right? I mean, the best thing to do is to patch test, right? Observe. If you do, if you don't, then go ahead, right? I mean, I don't like labeling fragrance as bad automatically, right? It's more of like a nuance, right? If you're able to tolerate it, then go ahead. Allow your skincare routine to be both effective and enjoyable. But of course, if you do have sensitive skin, make sure to tread lightly when it comes to fragrance. Because, I mean, your risk for developing it is higher. So maybe the fragrance-free options would be a safer choice, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I actually really want. There's like some like Glow Recipe is like known for like there's the smell. I really want to just try it for the smell.
Yes. Sometimes, I mean, it's just so, the experience is so different if there is a scent, right? And then, one more thing though. I think an important thing when it comes to fragrance is like you do have to know what you're looking for. Because if you read the ingredient list, not all would be like blatantly obvious as a fragrance, right? So, I mean, an example would be like, pretend, balsam of Peru. That is commonly found in different skincare products. But I mean, you wouldn't offhand think it's a fragrance, but definitely that is something that would impart one, right? Another example, parfum. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. Parfum. Like it's like a concoction of different scents, right? So, I mean, and definitely if it is in your product, it would impart a fragrance, right? So you kind of have to know what you're looking for. And then another thing is fragrance-free is different from unscented. I think that's another thing that people get confused with, right? Because if it's unscented, it doesn't necessarily mean that there's no fragrance in it. It just could possibly mean that they added an ingredient to sort of mask the scent, right? So it could be unscented and you still develop a reaction and you're like, what? But I used something that was quote unquote free of fragrance. But in truth, it did have it. But it was just masked by something to make it seem like there was no fragrance. So, I mean, there are all these different things that you have to take into consideration, right? So, yeah.
I had no idea. Yeah, I had no idea about that.
It's pretty tricky. Like, for instance, like essential oils, right? That's another example. I mean, you wouldn't think it's a fragrance. It's not labeled as a fragrance, right? But definitely it would have a scent, right? So those are just some things to keep in mind.
Actually, my follow-up question is about essential oils. Should that be also kind of a little bit cautious to use, or
well,
just kind of...
Yeah. I mean, that's a good question. If you do have sensitive skin, your predisposition to develop an irritation or being sensitized to it is higher. So, I mean, it all just boils down to patch testing it out, listening to your skin. Did you develop a reaction? If you did,